Now, you guys have said that the reason you increased this price so much after acquiring the drug was in order to do the research and development to develop a better version of Daraprim. I just got off the phone with an HIV doctor who told me they don't need a better version of this drug. What are you doing here?
She needs Daraprim in order to survive. What do you say to her when she has to make that choice? What do you say to her?
On the advice of counsel, I invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination and respectfully decline to answer your question.
Federal officials are holding a press conference at this hour after arresting Martin Shkreli. He's the pharmaceutical company CEO who achieved a lot of notoriety for hiking the price of a life-saving antiviral drug 5,000%.
Yeah, but the people who raise the price of AIDS medication are fucking dorks, dude. That sucks.
When I think of evil, there's a few people that come to mind. Hitler, Ted Bundy, BTK, just to name a few. But then there's people in modern times that remind us that evil is still very much prevalent in this world. And it always ties into two simple things: power and greed. And one example of this in modern times is Martin Shkreli, a man who single-handedly increased the price of a vital medication by over 5,000% for people with suppressed immune systems, people that have HIV, people that are dying from cancer, that are more prone to infections, that are now not able to have access to said drug to prevent death effectively. And taking advantage of sick, vulnerable people, I can't even express how angry this makes me feel. How anyone with any sort of moral or ethical standards could do something like this purely just for profit. As I know a lot of us are probably aware, the American healthcare system in particular is geared around profit. Even with insurance, lower class working people either die because they can't afford the treatment or they go into massive debt. Insurance companies deny coverage for cheaper alternatives to push patients toward expensive drugs that give them more profits. When the same drugs in Europe are priced a lot cheaper than the exact same drugs in America, that is a huge problem. And they wonder why the CEO for United Healthcare was assassinated, who has the highest rejection rate in America when it comes to health insurance. The point I'm trying to make here is that the system is designed to allow people like Martin Shkreli to hike prices of life-saving drugs, effectively signing the death warrants of people who need it just to survive. And this is the story of Martin Shkreli's rise to infamy, from a pharma CEO to, thankfully, a convicted felon. Martin began his career in finance and biotech investing. He worked at hedge funds like Kramer and Berkowitz and Co., and would later found his own hedge fund with a friend of his known as MSMB Capital Management in 2009. In 2011, he founded Retrofin, which was a biotech company focused on developing drugs for rare diseases. But the thing with Martin was he liked the short stock method, which was a strategy where traders would profit from the decline in the price of an asset, usually a stock, and he would openly influence the stock, aiding in its decline. And in 2011, he would file requests within the FDA to reject a new cancer diagnostic device from NVIDIA Biopharmaceuticals and an inhalable insulin therapy from a company known as Mankind Corporation, while he was publicly short-selling both company stocks, the values of which dropped because of his interference with the FDA. The companies had a very difficult time to release these products as a result, but the FDA thankfully did go on to approve them. But this kind of shows you the type of person this man is, that he was willing to prevent life-saving medication, life-saving devices that could improve the health of the American people so he could make profits. In 2014, Retrofin's board would oust him, and later on he actually would be civilly sued because they would allege that he used company funds to pay back defrauded hedge funds investors. Now, in 2015, he would go on to establish Turing Pharmaceuticals, and the company's main strategy was to acquire the rights of already existing medication and increasing their prices, to which he claimed was to basically invest in more research and new treatments. In August of 2015, Turing Pharmaceuticals acquired the US marketing rights to a drug known as Daraprim from IMAX Laboratories for around $55 million. This drug is primarily used to treat what is known as toxoplasmosis, which is a parasitic infection that can be severe in individuals with weakened immune systems, specifically those that are being treated for HIV or AIDS, as well as people that have cancer. At that time, the drug was priced $13.50 a tablet, But after he acquired the medication, it was increased by over 5,000%, now priced at $750 a tablet. Now I'm going to say that again. $750. Now this meant, of course, that the annual price of this medication for patients was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And naturally, people were outraged, as they should be. The Infectious Disease Society of America and the HIV Medicine Association described the increase as an unjustifiable for the medically vulnerable patient population and unsustainable for the healthcare system. Because people who relied on this medication simply could not afford it anymore. And all that did was put unnecessary pressure on the healthcare system because these people were getting sicker and needed more care as a result. And the healthcare system was already broken. And again, only all designed for him and his company and his goons to make more money. Martin, of course, responded to the outrage, claiming that the money was being used to fund the new and better treatment.
Excited to develop new drugs for toxoplasmosis. We're going to contribute the majority of our revenue to doing that. So in essence, we're taking the revenue from Daraprim and trying to come up with a better, safer, more effective version of it.
Even though the medication has been an effective and affordable medication for decades, since the 1950s, like even $13 per tablet is expensive, but $750 is beyond reasonable for anyone. It's one of the most outrageous examples of greed I've ever seen. And that's a lot coming from a country where insurance companies actively deny people and push more expensive treatments because they have the power to do so, because they want to make more profit. And unfortunately, but not surprisingly to me as well, is that what Martin did is not illegal. There is no criminal prosecution for increasing the cost of any drug in America. But for Martin, thankfully, karma would catch up with him, because some of his actions with both Retrofin and with his own hedge company would come back to haunt him. In December 2015, he was arrested by the FBI and was indicted on multiple counts of securities fraud and conspiracy to commit securities fraud stemming from his management of hedge funds and the tenure at Retrofin. Prosecutors alleged that Martin engaged in a Ponzi-like scheme using assets from Retrofin to pay off defrauded investors from his hedge funds. In August of 2017, he was convicted on 2 counts of securities fraud and 1 count of conspiracy to commit securities fraud and sentenced to 7 years in prison, and was also forbid the $7.36 million in assets. Now, thankfully as well, in a separate civil case in 2022, he was also ordered to return a massive $64.6 million in profits, and thankfully was also banned for life from the pharmaceutical industry. Annoyingly enough though, he would only actually serve over 4 years in his 7-year sentence and was released in May of 2022. He did appeal the court's decision on the return of the $64.6 million in October 2024 to the US Supreme Court, who actually declined to hear his appeal. And apparently now he's employed as a consultant for a law office of Christopher K. Johnson, LLC, earning apparently $2,500 a month. So although some justice was served, in my opinion, it's nowhere near enough. He became a symbol of corporate greed in the pharmaceutical industry, which I believe now has had more of an effect on the everyday American person. But the real question here is, why do they get away with this? But it's actually quite simple. Lobbying. Lobbying plays such a huge role here. The fact that some countries like America can effectively allow these huge monopoly companies to bribe their lawmakers to pass legislation that helps them with their profits to prevent any sort of federal criminal prosecution. And in 2024, the pharmaceuticals and health products industry in the United States spent most on lobbying efforts, which was totaling around $293.7 million US. The whole system in the States in particular is designed to make profits, where CEOs of these companies make millions of dollars on the backs of hardworking people, and because they pay off the legislators, they can effectively do whatever they want. And that's not to say that there isn't people that don't care in this industry. There is certainly hardworking doctors and nurses in hospitals that do their best to help their patients, that do actually care. And there is employees of these pharmaceutical companies developing these drugs because they do genuinely want to help people, because they want Americans to be more sick. If you guys are more sick, you require more medication. If you have more medication, that requires more money. There's other examples of this. Like, for example, like the cost of the EpiPen in 2007 was only $50. And as of 2016, it went up to $600. Why? What is the justification? The only reason, pure and simple, is because of profit. In 2003, Congress passed a vile and disgusting legislation which meant that the Medicare could not negotiate with drug prices, which effectively meant that the pharmaceutical companies can set the prices at whatever price they fucking want, and the government can't do jack shit about it. And Martin's actions show this. At the end of the day, he was not arrested for his price gouging. He was arrested for stock fraud, you know, which is something that in the States they frown upon it quite a lot, but they don't seem to be too concerned with companies that have the monopoly and the power to increase prices by 5,000% of life-saving drugs. And Martin was actually on a podcast last year which featured Shane Gillis, and Shane Gillis kind of said the things we were all thinking.
Why don't you want people to get medicine?
I want people to get medicine. You're confused.
He's telling you. But he sounds like I'm confused, but you did go to jail, so I think me and the judge are on the same page. Yeah, but the people who raise the price of AIDS medication are fucking dorks, dude. That sucks.
Shane clearly doesn't like the dude, and nor should he. And Shane is right in what he says. Martin doesn't see anything wrong with what he did. He doesn't have any empathy. He doesn't have any compassion for the people that he's affected because he thinks he's better than them. And the thing that's the most important to him is making money. In 2020, they actually had to make a generic version of the drug to help combat the cost on the people. But a lot of people have said, oh, well, this drug is out, so like Martin can't profit or whatever. But at the end of the day, that was the main reason the drug was created. Like the generic version came out years after Martin's drug. And my problem with Martin is he's also so smug and he tries to justify what he did. And you can see he doesn't care. Now, I don't claim to be an expert, especially in American healthcare. You know, I do my research and I give an opinion based on what I research. You know, I'm not American, I don't live there. But one thing I will say, whether you're left or right wing, whether you support Trump or Biden or whoever you want to support, I don't really care. But like, whoever you support, the one thing that I think we should and should be able to all agree on is that healthcare is a human right. Universal healthcare is the only way forward. And there's plenty of countries, including my own, that have versions of universal healthcare. One thing that I would say that Americans should do is get rid of lobbying. And they're happy to let these pharmaceutical companies do it. And that's not like a specifically right or left thing. That's across all politicians in both spectrums. Like they've all received money, like in some form. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. If you feel I've said anything wrong, I'm happy to have an open discussion about it. I'm not here to attack or offend anyone. I just think it's an important, critical time in America when it comes to healthcare, and I think it needs to be looked at. And I'd love to hear from you guys and what you guys think about it. But that's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe as always if you enjoyed the video. I'm still currently on my goal of 1,000 subscribers. I'm getting closer, and hopefully I will be there in the next couple of weeks. So if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. It would mean a lot to me. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Peace out.